Centuries of confusion ended. How a human solved the galaxy's greatest tech mystery, the artifact. The vast expanse of the galaxy shimmered with the lights of countless civilizations, each boasting its own culture, history, and technological marvels. Yet, there was one enigma that no species, no matter how advanced, had managed to decipher: the Minera artifact. Discovered floating in the unclaimed Minera Nebula centuries ago, the artifact was a perfect sphere of obsidian black material, untouched by time or entropy. It defied every known law of physics. Attempts to scan it revealed nothing. It absorbed all energy and emitted none. Countless scientists, scholars, and philosophers from across the galactic concord had tried to unravel its mysteries, and all had failed. To some, it became a symbol of the galaxy's limits. To others, a cautionary tale: not all questions have answers. But for humanity, a relatively new member of the Concord, it was something else entirely: a challenge. A young prodigy, Dr. Elisa Thorne, stood in the observation bay of the Concord's Stellar Research Station, staring at the artifact. She was a physicist by training, but her real gift lay in seeing patterns where others saw chaos. Her colleagues often joked that she could find the rhythm in a star's nuclear chaos or the melody in a black hole's gravitational waves. At just 32 Terran years old, Elisa had already earned a reputation as one of Earth's brightest minds. That reputation, however, hadn't spared her from skepticism when she volunteered to join the Concord's efforts to decode the Minera artifact. Humans and their hubris, an Extari scientist had muttered during her introduction, as if centuries of failure by greater minds mean nothing to them. Elisa had ignored the jibe. She was used to being underestimated, both as a human and as a woman in a galaxy dominated by elder races. But deep down, she understood the sentiment. The artifact had humbled species with lifespans that spanned millennia. What could a human possibly uncover that they had missed? First impressions. The artifact floated in the center of a reinforced containment field, a perfect sphere about the size of a human head. Elisa couldn't help but marvel at its simplicity. For all its mysteries, it was utterly unadorned: no markings, no seams, nothing to hint at its purpose. "Do you sense it?" a deep voice rumbled beside her. Elisa turned to see Kralzek, a reptilian scientist from the Trilixian species. His amber eyes glinted with an almost religious reverence. "Sense what?" Elisa asked. "The wrongness," he said. "Even the air around it feels alien. It defies every instinct." Elisa tilted her head. "I don't feel wrongness, I feel curiosity." Kralzek hissed softly, a sound she'd come to recognize as Trilixian laughter. "Typical human. You dive headfirst into the abyss without fear." Elisa smiled. "Maybe that's why we survive." The first spike. Elisa spent weeks studying the artifact, poring over centuries of research logs from hundreds of species. She quickly realized why so many had failed. They'd all approached the artifact with the assumption that it functioned like their own technologies: energy-based, mechanical, or quantum in nature. But Elisa's first breakthrough came not from advanced scanners or simulations, but from an overlooked historical log, a note from a Trilixian historian nearly 300 years ago. It described a faint hum that some individuals claimed to hear when near the artifact. No instrumentation had ever recorded this hum, and so most scientists dismissed it as psychosomatic. But to Elisa, it was a clue. The pattern emerges. She began experimenting with sound, playing different frequencies in the containment chamber to see if the artifact responded. Days turned into weeks with no result. Her colleagues grew restless, and murmurs of her failures spread through the station. Until one day, it happened. Elisa was running a low-frequency resonance test when she heard it, a faint, almost imperceptible tone, like the whisper of a tuning fork struck in the vacuum of space. She froze, her heart racing. The artifact was responding. "Dr. Thorne?" Kralzek's voice crackled over the combs. "What is that sound?" "I think it's the artifact," Elisa replied, her voice trembling with excitement. The revelation. Elisa repeated the experiment with precision, documenting every detail. The artifact's hum wasn't random, it followed a pattern, a series of frequencies, like musical notes, played in perfect harmony. It wasn't a machine, it was speaking. By carefully analyzing the sequence, Alisa uncovered what she believed to be the artifact's language. It wasn't based on mathematics or physics but on something far more universal: emotion. Her hypothesis stunned the Concord's scientific community. Most elder species viewed emotion as primitive, a trait to be mastered and suppressed. The idea that the galaxy's greatest mystery might be decipherable through something so human was met with skepticism, even derision. But Alisa was undeterred. The first translation. After weeks of refining her methods, Alisa finally managed to translate a small portion of the artifact's hum into visual data. What she uncovered left her breathless. The artifact wasn't a tool or a weapon, it was a message, and its contents were staggering. Star charts that predated any known civilization, blueprints for technology far beyond anything in the Concord, and a cryptic warning: beware the silenced. Alisa stared at the data, her hands trembling. She didn't know who had created the artifact or why it had been left drifting in the Minera Nebula, but one thing was clear: humanity's unique perspective had unlocked the first key. The artifact wasn't just a mystery, it was a doorway. And something or someone was waiting on the other side. Echoes of the past. Alisa Thorne's discovery sent shockwaves across the galactic Concord. In a matter of days, she went from being a curiosity, a young human tinkering with a mystery far beyond her station, to a figure at the center of the galaxy's greatest enigma. The artifact had spoken, and humanity, the newcomers to the galactic stage, had been the first to understand it. But not everyone celebrated. In the Concord's central chamber, an emergency council meeting was called to discuss the implications of Alisa's findings. The chamber, a vast circular room suspended in zero gravity, buzzed with tension. Delegates floated in their respective pods, their species as diverse as the stars they represented. At the center of the chamber, a hologram of Alisa's translated star charts rotated slowly, casting faint glimmers of light across the delegates. The charts were ancient, depicting star systems long erased from existence, along with unfamiliar symbols that no one had yet deciphered. The council divided. "This is a hoax," barked Raylorin, a hulking insectoid from the Hleth Consortium. His mandibles clicked in agitation. "No species has deciphered the artifact in centuries, and we're to believe this human has solved it in weeks?" Alisa, seated in a smaller pod reserved for invited speakers, straightened her posture. "The evidence is clear, Delegate Raylorin. The artifact responded to sound, a language of emotion. It's something none of your instruments could detect because they weren't designed to." "Convenient," sneered Vri Taura, a cold-blooded reptilian from the Zytherian Alliance. "Emotion is a primitive lens, unfit for true science. This is a dangerous misinterpretation." Ambassador Crixtan, a supporter of Alisa's work, intervened. "And yet, none of your advanced methods worked. This discovery opens possibilities we've never considered. Should we dismiss it simply because it came from a human?" The debate raged on, splitting the council into factions. Some argued that the message was too dangerous to pursue, citing the cryptic warning, "Beware the silenced." Others believed it was an opportunity to uncover knowledge that could transform the galaxy. Alisa, though overwhelmed, remained resolute. She hadn't spent weeks chasing faint harmonies to be dismissed by elder species clinging to their pride. The warning unveiled. Back on the research station, Alisa worked tirelessly to decode more of the artifact's hum. Her team, now including Kralzek and a few open-minded Concord scientists, discovered that the message wasn't static. It evolved as they interacted with it, responding to specific sound patterns with new sequences. It was as if the artifact was alive, or at least guided by an intelligence far beyond their understanding. One night, as Alisa adjusted the resonance frequencies, the artifact emitted a sudden, jarring tone, a sound so sharp and alien that the entire lab froze. The holographic projection shifted violently, forming a new image, a void marked with pulsing red symbols. Kralzek hissed, his scales rippling with unease. What does it mean?" Alisa's voice was barely a whisper. "It's a map to a dead zone." Dead zones were star systems that appeared lifeless, no light, no energy signatures, no activity of any kind. They were scattered across the galaxy, shrouded in mystery and fear. No ship that ventured into a dead zone had ever returned. The artifact's message was clear: the next step lay in the heart of one of these zones. A dangerous mission. The council debated for days, torn between caution and curiosity. In the end, it was Earth's ambassador who tipped the scales. Humanity was not invited to the stars, Ambassador Lin said, addressing the council with quiet authority. We fought our way here, surviving against odds that should have destroyed us. This artifact speaks to us in a way it hasn't to any other species. Perhaps that's because we understand what it means to face the unknown and move forward anyway. The Concord approved the mission by a narrow margin. Alisa was given command of the Venture, a state-of-the-art exploration vessel equipped with a multi-species crew. Their destination, the Void star system encoded in the artifact's map. Into the Void. As the Venture approached the dead zone, the crew grew tense. The Void loomed ahead like a wound in space, utterly black and featureless. The ship's sensors reported nothing, no gravity wells, no radiation, no trace of matter. It was as if the entire region had been erased from existence. Alisa stood on the bridge, her hands clenched behind her back. Bring us closer, she ordered, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. The Venture inched forward, its shields bristling against an invisible force. Suddenly, the artifact aboard the ship activated on its own. It emitted a hum so powerful that the entire vessel vibrated. Then, without warning, the Void rippled. It's reacting to the artifact, Kralzek shouted. The ripple grew into a swirling vortex, and within seconds, the Venture was pulled inside. The other side. When the chaos subsided, the crew found themselves in an impossible place. The Void was gone, replaced by a vast expanse of stars unlike any they had ever seen. Massive structures, too large and intricate to comprehend, floated in the distance, glowing faintly with an energy that seemed alive. The artifact's hum grew louder, shifting into a melody that resonated through the ship. Alisa stared at the view in awe. It's a gateway. This isn't a dead zone. It's a hidden network. Before anyone could respond, a new signal erupted from the ship's comm system. It wasn't a distress call or a language, it was a pulse, rhythmic and deliberate, like the artifact's hum. It's welcoming us, Alisa said softly, her voice filled with both wonder and dread. Whispers of the silenced. The Venture drifted cautiously through the alien expanse, surrounded by colossal structures that pulsed with faint, otherworldly light. Each one was unique, with shapes that seemed to defy conventional geometry, spires twisting into spirals, domes adorned with intricate fractals, and bridges that shimmered like liquid. Alisa Thorne stood on the bridge, captivated by the impossible beauty. Yet, a deep unease gnawed at her. The hum from the artifact had shifted again, its tone darker, more urgent. It was as though the artifact was aware of something they couldn't yet see. Kralzek leaned over the console, his amber eyes scanning the sensors. I don't like this, he muttered. These structures, they're active, but I can't determine how. Alisa nodded, her gaze fixed on the largest structure ahead. It resembled a massive, hollow sphere, its surface etched with glowing glyphs. The artifact in their cargo bay hummed louder as they approached, its sound vibrating through the ship. A signal from the sphere. Captain, one of the crew, a Zoltran engineer, called out. We're receiving another signal. It's coming from the sphere. Let's hear it, Alisa said, bracing herself. The bridge filled with a low, resonating tone that sent chills down their spines. It wasn't just a sound, it was layered with emotion, sorrow, fear, and an overwhelming sense of warning. The artifact responded with a higher-pitched hum, creating a haunting harmony. What is this? Murmured Krixa, the avian navigator. It feels like a message, but not in any language I know. Alisa's mind raced. It's trying to communicate. Patch the signal through the artifact. Let's see if it can interpret. The crew watched in tense silence as the artifact's hum shifted, aligning itself with the signal. Moments later, the glyphs on the sphere's surface began to glow brighter, and a holographic projection filled the bridge. The message unveiled. The projection depicted a star system, much like the charts they had decoded earlier, but this one was fragmented. Stars blinked out of existence, one by one, until only darkness remained. Then, shapes emerged from the void, vague, indistinct forms that pulsed with an eerie crimson light. A voice, distant and layered with static, echoed through the chamber. We were the architects of the gate. We reached beyond the boundaries of our stars. seeking knowledge, but we awoke, the silenced. The projection shifted to show the structures around them, once vibrant and teeming with life. They were now lifeless ruins, their creators gone. The message continued. They do not speak, they do not reason, they only consume. Beware the silenced. The final image was of the sphere itself, glowing with the same glyphs they now saw. The key to the gate is also the lock. Use it wisely, or the silence will spread. A divided crew. The message ended, and the bridge fell into stunned silence. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the warning sinking in. We should leave, Kralzek said firmly, breaking the silence. This is a place of death. Whatever the silenced are, they destroyed the beings who built these structures. We cannot risk drawing their attention. But the message, Elisa countered, her voice tinged with determination. The artifact isn't just a lock, it's a key. Maybe we can learn from this place, find a way to protect the galaxy. Krixa ruffled her feathers nervously. And what if we fail? What if we awaken the silenced, just as they did? The crew was torn. Some sided with Kralzek, urging caution. Others, inspired by Elisa's resolve, believed the knowledge hidden in the sphere could be the galaxy's salvation. The debate grew heated until Elisa made her decision. We came here for answers, she said, her voice steady. If we leave now, we'll never know the full truth. I won't turn back. The descent into the sphere. The venture deployed a smaller craft to explore the sphere, with Elisa, Kralzek, and a handful of volunteers aboard. As they approached, an opening appeared in the sphere's surface, its edges glowing faintly. The artifact's hum intensified, almost as if it were guiding them. Inside, the sphere was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, all adorned with the same glowing glyphs. The walls pulsed faintly, as though alive. The team moved cautiously, their scanners detecting faint energy signatures but no signs of life. In the central chamber, they found what appeared to be a control console. The artifact in Elisa's pack began to vibrate, and as she placed it on the console, the entire chamber lit up. Glyphs swirled around them, forming complex patterns. This looks like a map, Kralzek said, his voice hushed. But to where? Elisa studied the patterns. It's a network. The artifact is showing us where these gates lead. Before they could fully process the information, the chamber shook violently. A deep, guttural sound echoed through the sphere, followed by a wave of energy that sent the team reeling. The awakening. Something's coming, Krixa squawked over the comms, her voice filled with panic. The team scrambled to retrieve the artifact as the sphere's corridors began to shift, walls closing behind them as if trying to trap them. They raced back to their craft, the guttural sound growing louder with each passing moment. As they launched from the sphere, the entire structure began to collapse in on itself, imploding into a single, blinding point of light. The venture barely escaped the blast radius, but as the light faded, the crew realized the void around them was no longer empty. Shadows moved in the distance, indistinct shapes with glowing crimson eyes. They pulsed rhythmically, their movements deliberate and menacing. Kralzek stared at the screen, his scales rippling with fear. The silenced awaken. The venture drifted in silence, the glow of the collapsing sphere fading behind them. The crew stood frozen as the shadows in the void shifted. The crimson eyes of the silenced pulsed in unison, a rhythm that seemed to reverberate in the crew's bones. Elisa Thorne felt her breath catch. The artifact, still humming in her pack, vibrated with a frequency she had never felt before. It wasn't fear, it was urgency. The silenced were not idle, they were moving toward the venture. We need to leave. Now, Kralzek growled, his claws tapping furiously at the controls. No, Elisa said firmly, we've come this far. The artifact guided us here for a reason. We need to understand what we're facing. Understand? Kralzek snapped, his amber eyes blazing. They've destroyed civilizations. Do you think they'll spare us because of your curiosity? Elisa didn't answer. Her mind raced. The artifact was the key, but it was also the lock. If the silenced had been trapped before, there had to be a way to contain them again. Escape from the void. The silenced began to close in. Tendrils of darkness reached out, stretching toward the ship. The crew scrambled to power up the venture's warp drives. but the silenced emitted a pulse of crimson light that disrupted the ship's systems. "We're dead if we stay here," Crixa squawked, her talons gripping the navigator's console. Elisa glanced at the artifact. Its hum shifted again, almost pleading. She realized it wasn't just a tool, it was trying to communicate. Taking a deep breath, she placed her hands on its surface and focused. The vibrations coursed through her, aligning with her heartbeat. A vision overwhelmed her, a massive gate, glowing with the same glyphs as the artifact, sealing the silenced behind an impenetrable barrier. She saw the builders of the gate, tall, radiant beings who sacrificed themselves to power the seal. The message was clear: the gate could only be reactivated from within the void. Elisa snapped back to reality. "We have to lead them back to the gate." "Are you insane?" Kralzek hissed. "We barely escaped the gate collapsing. Now you want to return?" "It's the only way to stop them," Elisa said, her voice unwavering. "The artifact showed me how. We have to trust it." The final stand. With no other choice, the crew turned the Venture around and headed back toward the remnants of the collapsed sphere. The silenced pursued them, their movements growing more erratic and aggressive. The artifact glowed brighter as they approached the gate's remnants. Elisa guided the ship into position, her hands trembling as she placed the artifact into a console on the bridge. The ship's systems lit up, and the glyphs from the artifact spread across every screen. A new pulse erupted from the artifact, projecting a beam of light into the void. The tendrils of the silenced recoiled, their crimson glow dimming. Elisa realized the artifact was destabilizing them, pushing them back toward the gate's remnants. "Keep them distracted," she shouted. "We need to buy time for the artifact to rebuild the gate." Kralzek and the crew diverted all power to the ship's defensive systems. They fired beams of concentrated energy at the silenced, driving them back inch by inch. The silenced retaliated, sending waves of crimson pulses that rocked the Venture, but the artifact's light shielded the ship from the worst of the attacks. Rebuilding the gate. The glyphs on the screens began to spin faster, forming intricate patterns. The collapsed sphere's remnants started to reassemble, drawn together by the artifact's power. The glowing structures floated into place, forming the skeletal outline of the gate. But the silenced were relentless. They surged toward the ship, their crimson eyes burning brighter. "They're getting too close," Crixa cried. Elisa stood at the console, sweat dripping down her face. The artifact pulsed in time with her heartbeat, and she realized it needed more than just the ship's power. It needed a living connection, a sacrifice. "I have to stay," Elisa said softly. "What?" Kralzek turned to her, his scales rippling with alarm. "No, we'll find another way." "There is no other way," Elisa said. "The artifact needs a living mind to complete the gate. It's the only way to stop them." The crew protested, but Elisa was resolute. She had come this far, and she wasn't going to let the silenced escape into the galaxy. Taking a deep breath, she placed her hands on the artifact and allowed it to merge with her consciousness. The gate sealed. The glyphs flared with blinding light as the gate solidified. The silenced let out a deafening, unearthly roar, their forms dissolving as the gate pulled them in. The crimson glow faded, replaced by a serene, golden light. Elisa's body trembled as the artifact absorbed her energy, using it to power the gate's seal. She felt herself slipping away, her thoughts merging with the glyphs, becoming one with the artifact's purpose. As the last of the silenced disappeared, the gate sealed itself, its surface gleaming with radiant glyphs. The void was silent once more. A hero remembered. The Venture emerged from the void, its crew battered but alive. Kralzek held the artifact in his hands. It was now inert, its purpose fulfilled. Elisa was gone, her sacrifice ensuring the safety of the galaxy. Back at the Concord, the news of her actions spread like wildfire. Elisa Thorne became a symbol of humanity's courage and ingenuity, a reminder that even in the face of the unknown, one person could make all the difference. The gate remained a mystery, a monument to the builders who came before and the humans who rose to meet their challenge. And though the galaxy returned to peace, the warning echoed in their minds. Beware the silenced. Elisa's legacy lived on, a testament to the unyielding spirit of humanity willing to face the darkness, not with fear, but with the determination to light the way for all.